What in the world is going on? I have no idea what's going on right now. Right before I joined, all of a sudden my just like browser just freezes every time I try to join Restream. It's really weird. I'll have to see what's up. Actually have been going into the office all week, so I have not been sitting at my normal spot all day. So I don't know if maybe my computer is just like very upset that I've only decided to come on and stream basically, and not paid enough attention to my beautiful new monitors. But who knows? But anyways, happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Got a fun show for you. Pennsylvania Derby Day. Usually always a fun little card at Parx. Whether or not the takeout is just astronomically high, there's usually some pretty good racing. Unfortunately, the king of Parx was unable to join. Mr. Caleb Knight, the self-proclaimed king of Parx. He for some reason decided that this was another good week to take off. So he's actually got he had some family in town last week, and I know his girlfriend's in town this week. So and then Mark, who has no social life, I have no idea what he's doing. The man's got nothing else going on. I don't know. So it was just me, and because Mark decided to just kind of, I don't know, disappear. I'm gonna. I hate to do this to you, Matthew, but I'm gonna pull in the defensive B alert because I think Mark just like didn't. I don't know. I don't know where Mark is, and I had to use this at some point. I feel like you and I are smarter and better looking than Mark, and we would never use a defensive B. So
never.
Shout out to Nick Feldman there. He's in here nice and early, even with our technical difficulties. So, but Matthew, welcome. You threw such praise at us after the first time you came on that I felt that it's so nice. We should do it twice. But how you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited to talk about Parx. I'm a native of southeastern Pennsylvania. I grew up in Reading, and which is about an hour and a half outside. So I went more to Penn National growing up, but Parx is very special. I'm actually heading up there tomorrow, so I'll be on site for Pennsylvania Derby Day. I was there last year as well. Looks like it's going to be beautiful weather on Saturday. So excited to talk Parx, this late pick 5 sequence, and I think they put together a heck of a card too. 13 races. I mean, races 4 through 12 are all stakes races, and you have a 5 race graded stakes sequence as well. So there's so much going on in this card, and full fields. It's something that I think after a summer at Saratoga, a lot of us are looking forward to, is seeing 10, 11, 12, 14 horse fields, believe it or not, in stakes races. So a lot of excitement there, and a lot of very competitive fields.
Yeah, it was surprisingly good.
Yeah,
I was pretty shocked, and I feel like I got a couple of nice horses I like in here that are going to be are gonna be prices. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited to talk about this card. I really did wish that Caleb was gonna be here because I don't understand how this man is so good at Parks. He there were just times where like specifically like when tracks that he's not like 100%, like Churchill's running or something, he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, he's like, I couldn't pick a winner. And then next thing you know, he's just like posting some stable duel like win at Parks, or some, some just like pick 4 hit or
Yeah.
pick 3 hit, and it's just like, what
Yeah.
the heck are you doing, man? Like, what?
Yeah.
First of all, why are you looking at Parks on Monday? Like, come on.
You got to stay off horse racing Twitter on Monday, so you got to play
Yeah.
Parks, and those dark days can be something else. And so, no, it's just really a warm up to Assiniboia a lot of times
Yep,
in the
exactly.
afternoons, but in the evenings. But yeah, Parks it's interesting. It's a track that, yeah, I definitely run hot and cold at. In terms of playing on Stable Duel, there are some days where I'm like, Jesus, like, am I going to break 100 points in this game? And then there are other days where I'm like, I pick like 6 winners, and so I run really hot cold there. I mean, obviously, when you're playing on a weekly basis, there are some huge names in terms of both jockeys and trainers that you just always have to look out for. Obviously, that changes a little bit on a big day like this because all of the big names from across the country kind of descend on Parks, and so you get the Chad Browns and the Pletchers and the Bill Motts and the Steve Asmusens coming in. So it's not just Robert Reed and Jamie Ness, just kind of cleaning up as it might be on a Monday through Wednesday situation. But yeah, it's a interesting track. So we'll and I see Nick just mentioned that there's the rail bias, and absolutely definitely a rail bias. And it's interesting that he says that because recently I've actually been looking at some of the statistics, and in sprints it actually looks like some of the outside post positions have been doing well lately, but traditionally there is more of an inside bias, particularly on routing.
Yeah, I probably play Parks once a year, and it's this day. I occasionally, like, it'll be like I'll have a Monday off or something, just a random day, and maybe I'll fire a couple win bets there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not really a track that I pay much attention to. But this weekend, I mean, there's not much else going on. I mean, there's a couple of stakes here and there. Churchill's not running on the turf, so it just makes it a less appealing product for me. I know some people just love betting Churchill dirt, but
Yeah.
we got some nice turf races coming here. I don't think we've talked about this yet, Matthew. Before we
Mm.
get into the races, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like we need to talk about this. What is up with your father and blocking people on Twitter?
Yeah, okay. We'll dive into this. So my and by the way, Nick, I'm drinking a California Pinot Noir. And nothing too fancy, just picked it up from the supermarket. But
Barfu?
I have no idea. It's something. So my dad is just turned 69 years old, and got on Twitter a few years ago, and has slowly started to dip his toe into horse racing, and kind of through me, but has started to kind of play Stable Duel and get to know people and things like that. And it didn't come to my attention until a couple months ago when I tagged my dad on a post, and somebody was like, your dad blocked me. And I'm like, my dad can be cantankerous for sure, but like my dad doesn't really also understand technology very well, or like to understand apps to know them well enough to block people intentionally. And so I got my brother, who thank God lives at home with my parents. And so he's much younger. He's 25. So he's living at home. I was like, Nathaniel, go to dad's phone and like check Twitter. Like, check to see, does he have a lot of blocked accounts? And Nathaniel texts me back and he's like, dad has somehow managed to block 12,587 people. And I have none of us have any idea how. My dad has no idea how. Like, I don't know how he managed to do this, but he has blocked so many damn people. And then he has to go in, and I will send him the Twitter profiles. I'm like, unblock this person, unblock this person, unblock. So he goes through like one at a time, unblocking people. And so it is a process. But if you were blocked by my father, do not take it personally. You are just part of some weird quirk in the algorithm that has managed to do it. But yeah, it was funny because all these people are wishing my dad happy birthday. And I'm like, Dad, you can't see any of this because you've blocked all these people, but all these people are wishing you a happy birthday.
That's just so funny.
Yeah. So he's a trip. But and if you play Stable Duel, he is the stable name Gran Babito, which is the name of our family dog. So if people want to check him out, sometimes and follow him on there. But,
Yeah, that's so funny. I don't know. I used to see his tweets, and
yeah,
then just at some point, like I was like, it's like, man, who's Matthew arguing? And there's a couple people who I got blocked. I'm not gonna name any names or anything like that, but there's a couple people who were like, I'm just like, no, I don't want to see any of your stuff. And so I was like, man, Matthew really likes this guy, and I'm like, who the heck is this? And I'm like, I was getting ready to just like, I was like, man, maybe I gotta block Matthew if he's mixing it up with this riffraff. And nope, nope, it was your dad.
Just my dad.
Oh.
Just my father.
And the aforementioned Mark Capitan, obviously has nothing going on because
I was going to say so busy that he's in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, he probably saw the view count was low, and he's like, "Let me boost this up a little bit." Here. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's dive into this. What do they call it? The 50-cent Philly Big Five.
Yes,
it's
Philly Big Five. Yeah,
it's going to be a mandatory payout. I believe there's a little bit of money in there. There's a little bit of carryover. But I think it's normally a jackpot, so it's going to be mandatory for this day. So, we'll give it the green light to play it here. But we're gonna start with the 5 furlong turf monster, grade 3 here for 3-year-olds and up. And we got an interesting field here. I think we got 12. Yeah, we got 12 and some AEs here. And I believe your morning line favorite is who is it?
I think
it's one of the AEs, but I think the one. That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's going to be 3-1. It's always tough to figure out who the heck the favorite is in these races when there's so many damn horses. So for Michael Moore and Andy Hernandez, Matthew, as our guest, I will let you go first. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I kind of identified the 4 as the horse that I like the most. Nothing Better, and this was a horse that I felt has been progressing throughout the year. Doesn't necessarily need the lead. I think there's going to be obviously a fast pace. It's a 5 furlong sprint, so it's one of those things. I sometimes do fall into the trap of going, geez, there's a lot of speed, maybe a closer. And then I'm like, well, the race is now over. And so, but I think this 4 is, to me, quite interesting. And the other thing we should point out is that a lot of this field doesn't have turf experience. There's a lot of dirt horses that are making the transition for the first time or have only periodically dabbled on the grass before coming here. So the 4 is one of the few horses that is a legit turf sprinter. I feel like this horse has been getting better in 2022. 2 wins and 4 starts. I feel like the ownership group has been pointing toward this particular race and can sit a little bit, has shown it doesn't need the lead. I think the 1 is going to absolutely go out because it's going to have that inside rail, and that's also its nature. I have a feeling if the 4 can sit off of that a little bit and then launch, I kind of like the positioning of the 4, and you're getting slightly better odds at 4-1. So I identified the 4 as a horse I like up top. And then the other horse that was interesting to me is the 11 Smooth B. This is a horse that, to me, they seem like they are now getting to a point where they're recognizing that Smooth B is a horse that needs to be on the turf. Because this is a horse that had kind of gone on and off a little bit periodically. And then now starting counting this, the last 3 times will have at least intended to be on the turf. Ran on the turf 2 out. Last time out was washed off, and now back on the turf for the turf monster. Has decent turf pedigree. The sire was a turf sprinter winner, and the dam has produced some nice turf sprinter offspring. So there's at least a little bit of pedigree there. I think this is a horse at 6-1 to use underneath, but the 4 and 11 were the 2 that caught my eye. But Josh, where are you going in this one? Because I see you have some A's in a little different spots than me.
Yeah. So what's funny is I used to just not mark anything on the PPs, so people had a good idea. Just no bias or whatever. But then I realized that I'm staring at these 2 screens the entire time. Like, where am I going to put notes? So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to put my stuff on here. I kind of landed on 2 horses here. The first one I landed was the 2 Surprise Boss here. Surprise Boss has run some pretty nice races here, going 5.5. Last time out, looked like he was bumped at the start a little bit and tired pretty quickly, but if you kind of look back at the races he's kind of gotten the lead at, I think he's run pretty good. I mean, the quick call, he lost the Big Invasion and Run Curtis Run. I think those are two nice horses here.
Hmm.
I mean, I know this 3-year-old going against older, but interesting that IRAD gets aboard.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of say what you will about IRAD, but I mean, if he gets a mount at one of these B-level tracks, it's usually live, especially when it's not for somebody he's ever ridden before, or
Yep.
and unfortunately, I do not know who Rafael Rojena is, but
I don't either.
apparently IRAD's like, hey, yeah, let me ride the Rojena in this race. Horse is coming back from shipping in from Saratoga. So I don't know. I just thought that this was kind of one of those, like, there might be something there just with seeing Ira get aboard, horse shipping in from Saratoga, coming into what they probably think is a slightly softer spot. It is, like I said, it's late 3-year-old at least, but it is a 3-year-old going against older. But I thought that he was interesting here. The other horse I did like was one of your aforementioned dirt horses here,
Hmm.
the 5 Uncle Ernie,
Yep.
Joel Rosario and John Service. Now, I do have to preface this. I have no idea how these morning lines are at Parx, but I'm going to guess that they're awful. Um, and you know, this is the John Service is 2% first time on grass over the last 47 tries. All
Yeah.
right, so taking a short price on this kind of horse is really, I think, asking a lot. However, on Brisnet, you look at that last figure.
Yep.
I mean, it blows basically everyone out of the water. So
Yep.
it's like I'm hoping that dirt speed translates to turf. But I mean, am I going to take like 3-1 on it? No. Like I do need somewhat of a price. But like I said, yeah, it just really interested me here. For as much crap as we give Joel Rosario for his interesting tactics, I guess we could say. You know, I mean, Brisnet says he's 25% when he's on horses like need the lead type. So, and that's more than his average of 20%. So I know we constantly talk about him choking the living daylights out of his speed horses sometimes. But hey,
Yeah.
sometimes it works. I don't know.
Yeah, and I, you mentioned how large the field is, and I think that's something to keep in mind, which is like I don't think any of these horses are going to get bet down that much. Like I think you'll probably get an honest price at least on Uncle Ernie because of the fact that it's trying turf for the first time and the trainer stats that you mentioned. People are going to obviously gravitate to this horse. Rosario on turf sprints is kind of a little bit of a cheat code sometimes, but and obviously, trainer connections are well known at Parx, but still, from 8-1, I mean, I could see this horse getting down to 4-1, maybe 5-1, but I don't think it'll go south of 3-1, just because I think there are other legitimate horses to bet on in this race. But you're right,
Yeah.
that last effort was dynamite, and you're right. If he can translate it, then this could be just an easy win in some ways.
Yeah, Nick Feldman over here, he is highlighting a horse, the 7, Boats Rockin'. He said it ran a 21:43 at 1 mile last out and still almost won. Now he's cutting back, will be his top pick. Tyler Connor, a good jock that probably won't take money. So he's like in the 7. Did you give the 7 any thought?
I did, and normally I like a cutback. Sometimes cutting back all the way to 5 furlongs is a little bit concerning for me. That's although he brought up a good point about the fractions in the mile last time, and Tyler is obviously like the top jockey at Penn National. For the people who might not follow Pennsylvania racing that much, but he's a jockey that doesn't race often at Parx. So Nick's right that he's probably not going to attract a ton of money. But sometimes that mile to 5 furlong cutback is something I don't always love. I'd prefer it to go 6.5, something along those lines. But in this race, it's very wide open, and I think you could absolutely catch price here.
Nick pointing out there was a 30-1 morning line horse that basically went off favorite at Presque Isle. I haven't I heard about it. I saw some stuff on Twitter. I haven't had a chance to like really follow anything this week, but yeah, like some of these lines, God bless our morning line makers, because I could never do it. But man, sometimes it's just oof. But
yeah, And on a day like today, it's an interesting thing where I think certainly at Parx, setting the morning line on a typical Monday through Wednesday, in my experience, is usually pretty close to what they go off at. Like you don't see these egregious, like Indiana Grand sometimes has this, or Assiniboia sometimes has this, where like 10-1 horses go off at like below even money. But at Parx, it's usually not egregious, but on a day like this, I could see where there's going to be some fluctuation, I think, between the morning line and what they go off at.
I do have to show this real quick. So apparently Mark heard our comments. So, what the heck? This is so zoomed in. But apparently he is on uncle duty here. So let me share this. This one.
Oh,
so he's on uncle duty over there. So
love it.
So, poor Mark.
That's very adorable, though. Get them while they're young. Get them, but don't teach them to use defensive bees. Don't do that. So
that's probably the first thing. It's probably the first thing that he's like, look, 7-5 Chad Brown horse. All right, I don't care if you don't like it. You use it as a bee.
Listen,
we got to learn one thing from me.
We got to get this 3-5 home. Okay, come on, let's get there.
Charles is asking who the E8 horse. Or actually, before we get to that, Nick did point out that the 7 has never missed the exact at 5 furlongs. So, but he hasn't run at 5 furlongs in a while. So, Charles is asking about the E8, and if we want to talk about E8s, it is going to be the one here. That's right. Who is our favorite? Ran won a couple nice races at Monmouth. Went to Saratoga, got the lead in that same race that is one of the races that Big Invasion won. I think is that the same race that that Surprise Boss came out of, and just the wheels fell off there. So yeah, I mean, off of that kind of effort at a short price, I'm more interested to kind of fade there. What are you thinking, Matt?
Yeah, I also was kind of interested to fade. And if you look at the fractions in that last race were considerably faster than the fractions in the previous 3 victories that this horse had. And I just have a feeling this horse is going to get pressed for the lead. And like I said, coming from the inside post is going to have to be sent and sent hard. And I just think there's going to be a lot of company. I see this being a very fast sub-22 opening quarter. And this horse showed some susceptibility at fading late when running those fractions. So for me at a short price, I'm going to pass in this particular spot and try to find some horses, like I mentioned, who might be sitting a little behind that pace.
And Nick's saying he doesn't like the inside horses in turf sprints here.
Yep.
Thinks that this horse will have to break perfect and then outrun everyone and still hold off pressers and stalkers. And honestly, from a race flow perspective, when I looked at this race, I did think that it was going to be one of those like off the pace types. I just kind of had a hard time really identifying a horse that I thought for sure was going to come from off the pace. That did kind of like play into my my thinking with this 5. I mean, when the horse has gotten the lead, it doesn't necessarily need it to win. It has won from just off, but Rosario is not one afraid to pull back a speed horse. So he's also not afraid to just try and duel everyone in submission. So who knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
But I did think the 2. If you look back at a couple of their races, did come from at least a couple lengths off. So I was trying to look for something coming from off the pace, but I mean it was really tough in this spot. So
yeah, and I think some of the horses that might be candidates for coming off the pace were these horses that have just zero turf pedigree, and so you're like, and then you look at the trainer stats too, and you're just like, like the turf to dirt just isn't working at all, and so I just couldn't talk myself into any of those, and so I kind of ended up in a very similar spot as you, even though we landed on different horses. I think our logic was kind of pretty similar in this regard.
Yeah, Nick says he likes the 12 as the closer, the long shot closer in this race.
Okay.
So one to look at for Jorge Duarte. No rider named on it. But Groom's All Business, good name.
Yeah, it is. That's a good name.
And Charles doesn't like the layoff on the 5. He's kind of mentioned it a couple times. So I'm not super concerned. I'm more concerned about the first time turf with that trainer, but
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
and let live. But
What you got to do. And we should point
well,
out last year, the winner of the Turf Monster, I believe, was a 101-to-1 long shot.
yeah, that got
So
disqualified later, didn't he?
there might have been some pharmaceutical issues. There might have been some pharmaceuticals, but it is Parks. We can't we can't get rid of that. But
It wouldn't be
you know,
Pennsylvania racing if there wasn't some type of controversy.
indeed.
Yeah, let's keep going here.
Yeah.
Race 10,
Yeah.
Grade 2 Gallant Bob. We're gonna be going 6 furlongs here, 3-year-olds only. And let's see. I think is Provocteur. No, Provocteur is I think your favorite at 4-1.
Yep.
It's very flat board from a morning line perspective. Nakatomi at 9-2. And then like one of the AEs is at 5-1. You got Running Son of a Gun at 6-1, and then you got double digits on most of the rest of the field. Yeah, Nick's saying no Jackie's Warrior in this race.
No.
But yeah, I thought this was one of the more interesting races of the card here. And then I think I landed on 2 horses, both on the outside. And now that you talk about this inside bias, I'm just like, oh great, I'm gonna get boomed, and I'm gonna get a mean message from Papo like, why didn't you look at the bias? Like, but yeah, like I didn't really know what to do with Provocteur. I don't know if I'm gonna completely toss, but I was kind of going back and forth what to do with that horse. I think the other kind of question mark I had was this 12, a lot of hope. I thought was a little interesting coming in from Laurel and Charlestown. I thought had run some nice races. Has run a lot.
Yes.
I mean, you see a 3-year-old with 10 starts. I mean, in this day and age, that's like.
Yeah.
Who is that horse that's like literally run Sir Alfred
James? I was going to say he's the next Sir Alfred James, just running.
Yeah.
I think Sir Alfred James has run 15 times this year already, something like that, 15, 16 times this year. And I was actually there at Charlestown when he ran last time, and I was like, "There's no way this horse can win." And of course, the horse won. I was like,
I forgot. Yeah, and I used them too. Oh. That stupid pick 6, right? That I got DQ'd in the last race from. Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah.
My top pick here actually ended up being the 9, Running Son of a Gun here for John Toscano and Luis Saez. I see Nick is saying he thinks that whoever gets the lead is going to win. I think part of the the murky pace scenario here, you get a lot of EP types. So. With that, I kind of lean towards horses that I thought had kind of an established run style here. I did like this 9 coming from just off the pace is cutting back a little bit. If you look at who this 9 was running against and look at who he's running against now, I mean, there's just a definition of class relief. And you guys know I say class does not matter, but in this case. I mean, he's going against bums practically compared to the guys he's been racing. It's no disrespect to the horses in this race, but I just think that much softer spot and didn't really embarrass himself the last 2 times out. Finishing 3rd to some really nice horses. So, yeah, I really liked Running Son of a Gun here, and I also like the 11 Nakatomi for Joel Rosario and Wesley Ward. The horse has. I just think that 6 furlongs seems to be kind of where this horse wants to run. I think this horse wants to be on dirt. I know they tried to send him over to Ascot, and that didn't really work out. Came back from the Saratoga Special last year. 2-year-olds, who knows? But came back here in June at Churchill. Ran a nice little race, won pretty easily, was off a little slow, and that is a little bit of a concern here. But horse has been working very well, and I think the horse is going to be coming into this race fit. I mean, if there's one trainer that if I see a layoff, I really just don't care. It's Wesley Ward
Hmm.
because this is just what he
Hmm.
does. Him and Chad Brown, like whatever. Oh, horse has been off 6 months. Oh, it's all right. He's gonna fire fresh.
Yeah.
So I just thought that this horse made a bit of sense from a you know like I said, I don't know. I was just looking for that like established kind of pace style. I
Yeah.
think that both these horses aren't they're not going to be super far back. They're going to be within a length
No.
or two, I think. And I thought they made sense. I'll be interested to see what happens with scratches, with specifically with how it's going to change the pace scenario. I did see somebody, I think it was Andy saying that if there's an inside bias, he thinks Provocateur has a shot. And I will say that, if you get one or two of these quote unquote like pace horses a scratch out of here, I mean, the horse could just get out there on the lead and just not look back. So
Hmm.
something to keep in
Hmm.
mind. But I don't know. Where did you kind of land here, Matt?
So I landed actually on the exact same horse, running Son of a Gun. I love that 9 a lot. You already said it all in terms of class relief. I mean, this is a horse that ran against Jack Christopher and Gunite and Charge It, and it's coming out of the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. It gets Sayas aboard, and as I mentioned earlier, while there has sometimes been an inside rail bias, positions 8 and out have actually run really well in dirt sprints at Parx. And so I actually kind of like the outside a little bit more in dirt sprints for some of the same reasons that Nick mentioned in terms of turf sprints. Just, a little bit more room on the outside. You're not going to get pinched down against the rail. There's just less potential for commotion, I think, on the outside. But this is a horse that just seems to keep getting better. And what's interesting is this is a horse that just seems to get disrespected at the window too. I mean, this horse has turned in some really good efforts and still goes off at incredibly high prices. I mean, you can thank him for turning in a really rich trifecta at that H. Allen Jerkins, actually, despite Jack Christopher being super chalky up top and Gunite being very logical in the second spot. But he went off at 41-1 that day and ran really respectably. Went off at 56-1 and ran well in the race before that in the Amsterdam. So this is a horse that I just feel like is getting better and better, is a gun runner. And here's the other thing about gun runners that I think is worth noting is I think we've all been focused on how precocious these gun runners have been coming out of the box, just flaming as 2-year-olds. Here's the thing, though. Gunrunner himself was better later in his career. I mean, I think these horses could be getting even better as they get older. At least some of his offspring could be getting better as they get older. So I really like the 9 running Son of a Gun. The value that I like underneath is the 8 Witty. I think this is a horse that just is super logical in underneath. I don't like this horse to win, but this is a horse that if you take out its 2 routing efforts, one of which was on turf, this horse kind of fits. I mean, this horse it doesn't miss the board basically when sprinting. And granted, this is stepping up in class, but I think at 12-1, you're getting a really good value on the morning line here for a horse that's been super consistent. So I went with the 8 and 9 as kind of my top 2 favorites in this particular spot. More with the 9, really feeling good about that horse up top. But yeah, so we see kind of eye to eye there. And Nakatomi, very good choice, I think, as well on the far outside. So I think this race, I'm kind of with you in terms of a little bit of a question mark on Provocateur. I guess I'm fading this horse. I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I also think from a betting standpoint, this horse is going to take a ton of money because he's a my racehorse horse. And so what odds you're going to get at post time? I don't know, 5-2. Like, I mean, you're just going to get much lower odds than I think I would like to take on such a big field.
I didn't even know this is my racehorse. Yeah, that horse is going to get hammered.
Yeah.
Much like me, probably Saturday night after Parx. But one thing about your 8 as well as the 9, what I do like, they both have wins over the surface already.
Yeah.
They both run at Parx. They both have a win. It's not always the difference, but to me, it's always something I look for. It's something that's nice. Maybe it's just because I'm coming off of Kentucky Downs, right? Where that's like something you always look for. Hey, has this horse run at Kentucky Downs before?
Right.
Yeah, that was part of the reason why I really like this 9 as well. Has already got win over at Parx and an optional claimer, and went to the Naira circuit and is coming back here. So really like that. I did see Andy mentioned that two back. I know he said last race, but I think he meant two back. It looked like Whitty got was slow in the gate, hesitated, and ended up rallying for second. So it's one of those things where like, hey, maybe the horse gets a clean start, wins that race. I always have a hard time with gate issues, like getting stuck in a gate because like sometimes I'm like, well, what if that horse never breaks right though?
Right.
Like remember, like was it Tacitus that like almost like
Right.
fell over that one time, and everyone's like, oh, that's it. Like, and then people
Yeah.
bet Tacitus for 2 years off that one
Yeah.
stumble. But
Then you remember a horse like Wit last year, like had all these gate issues as well, like could never get out of the gate, but there was always like, oh, if he cleans it up, like then it's gonna be better. It's like, well, he has yet to clean it up. So like, I mean, now he's gotten a little bit better as a 3-year-old, but like that was one. And then I remember like infamously, like Lexitonian was just like so hit or miss coming out of the gate too. Like I remember when he just sat down in the gate at Saratoga, I was like, well, there we go. So
yeah, you
yeah,
just happen
but
to name two horses that just boomed the hell out of me.
oh really?
Wit when he ran on turf. I was like, who is betting this horse? And of
Yeah.
course the horse wins. And Caleb's like, how did you not bet Wit? Like, what did you have against him? I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And so I didn't talk to him for a day after that. It was ridiculous. And then Lexitonian, I think I needed him. It was on a group ticket, I think, with that we were doing, and we had two horses, and one of them was Lexitonian, and I think it was at Churchill Downs, and he finished second. And then I think like a couple. I forgot where he ran. He ran again later that year, and he was just like some astronomical price, like 50-1, 40-1, or something, and he just won. And I was like,
Yeah.
this freaking horse.
I think it was I think he won a win and you're in. He won like a Breeders' Cup Challenge race at like 46-1 or something like that, and he ended up in the Breeders' Cup. And yeah, I remember that. So
yeah, if I wanted to relive it, I would look it up in Equibase, but I do not. Charles here likes a 10 Lightning Larry, Chantel Sutherland, and Jorge Delgado. Yeah, I think I really like this horse in the Chick Lang that he won at a decent price. Kind of came back in that Jersey Shore where a lot of horses in this race kind of coming back in here, and looks like bumped at the start, dueled, and then just kind of you faded. So yeah, I didn't really know if there was that much of an excuse last time out. Did you give this 10 any look?
It's interesting. I didn't. It's funny. I was actually at Pimlico that day for the Preakness, and I remember that race. And that was one of those races. It was actually that race where it was just blistering front end speed that held up the whole way. And I was like, when they were flashing the fractions up on the tote board, I was like, there's no way front end speed's going to hold up. And then it did. And I remember at that moment, I was like, I'm putting everything on early voting. And thank God I did, but like, because that it kind of like made all the money back for the rest of the day. But I just, the track just played such a bias that day at Pimlico. And then you saw kind of the bounce last time. I don't know. I maybe underneath, but I'd like to see this horse kind of win again, I guess, or turn in another good effort before I maybe trust it in this sort of a spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horse that, like, if it beats me, I'm not going to be like surprised.
Yeah.
But I just don't think I'm going to use. But yeah, no, I think Lightning Layer is a nice horse. Like I said, that Chick Lang was a nice race, and I just don't, coming off that poor effort last time out with a lot of these other horses in there, I was kind of like, I looked, but I wasn't super interested. I looked at this 11, a lot of hope.
Oh, the 12,
yeah, 12. Sorry, and I normally don't do this, but I use Brisnet. I'm a pretty heavy Brisnet user, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why Brisnet has a lot of hope as the overwhelming like prime power pick here at like 10-1. And so I just kind of like I when I see something like this, I usually make a note of it. I just put a question mark, and I'm gonna look into it a little bit more. I got to figure out, like, got to piece this together, figure out why they like this horse so much, because I don't see it. I don't understand. Like I guess the speed figures are there on the Brisnet side, but those are 7 furlongs going at Laurel, for the most part coming from a bit off the pace. Had one turf try in there. Ran that Chick Lang, that Lightning Larry one, and just didn't. I mean, just completely missed the start.
Yeah.
Was down 16 lengths and finished up 3 1/4. But I don't know. I don't see it here with the 12, but there's something the computer likes something about it, and I can't think of it. You have any idea?
I don't, other than the race two back was maybe the best effort, but it was a restricted stakes race at Laurel, wins by 15 lengths. I don't know if just the sheer volume of distance there is something that I don't know. The computer systems like they go nuts over it. I'm not sure, but this is a horse when you go back through its running lines, like. Okay, it's beaten Of a Revolution, who's also in this race, but it's gotten beat by Lightning Larry, got absolutely smoked by Whitty in January. I mean, lost by 11 lengths to Whitty. So, and Whitty's at 12-1 on the morning line. Now, granted, the horse seems to have improved since then, but like, I don't know. It just feels like this horse has not been going up against the greatest competition at Laurel and Charlestown, and is taking a huge step up in class here. And I don't know. I'm not going to be using this horse on any of my tickets one way or the other. And if he beats me, he beats me, but I'd be shocked if he does.
Yeah, Charles thinks that Brisnet thinks that the horse has a pace advantage. I don't know. To me it was just interesting to me just to see that. Like I said, I don't think this horse makes any of my tickets. I would need to figure something out.
Yeah.
Or Caleb would have to tell me that he likes this horse. Then I will use, because the man knows Parx, like understands Parx in a way that I could only hope to understand the English language. Yeah, so we'll see about that.
What's interesting is just to kind of chime in on that, like from a Timeform US standpoint, a lot of hope doesn't, has kind of mediocre early speed, and Whitty has significantly superior late speed. So I'm just not sure, where this pace advantage is coming from. But because if somebody's going to capitalize on the meltdown, it's going to be Whitty, I think, more than the others. And so, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. So every once in a while, the algorithms get it wrong. So,
Yeah. Or then like every once in a while they get it right, and like everyone's like, "What the hell?" And then like there's some random person who's like, "The prime power," and I'm like, "God damn it! Like, where did this guy come from?" It's like you're just like the guy like pops out of a cake or something. Like, I don't know. I did want to shout out. It looks like Ryan, and Road Warrior, who have not been around for a little bit. I saw both these guys show up, so welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. We have some good chat participation tonight. Always love talking and seeing what you guys think here as well. Yeah, let's move on to the Cotillion. Man, what a great race this is like year in year out. I still remember, who was the Baffert horse that would go up against, was it Midnight Bisou?
Oh God.
Wasn't there? No. I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm thinking of somebody else. But there is a Baffert horse that I think won this race one year.
Yeah, I think Baffert's horses have won it like 3 times, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God. But this was also the Midnight Bisou, and the horse that ended up being my race horse at the end of her career. Oh yeah, in Opal, I think Abel Tasman. I think Abel.
Oh
Tasman.
yes.
Did Abel Tasman win this one year? Yeah. I think was it on a DQ, or did it?
Monomoy Girl. Yeah.
Monomoy Girl, and that stretch battle with Monomoy Girl, and
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's just an awesome race. As I sit here and try and figure out.
Yeah, and I should say last year, this was kind of the breakthrough race for Clairiere last year. That Clairiere kind of kept banging her head against Malafat and couldn't really break out. And then this was the race, the Cotillion last year, where she won. Now, granted, Malafat wasn't there, but still won that race. And I feel like this race kind of propelled Clairiere into a very, very successful 4-year-old campaign. So that was a memorable race even last year too.
FYI, I wasn't even close with Abel Tasman. That was not the horse I was thinking of. Abel Tasman did finish second in this race. I thought that was a race that broke this horse, but it was not, because I do not recognize the horse named Is Tis Well.
Oh
It
yeah, I
Tis
don't.
Well. That I have no idea who the hell that is. But yeah, no, it was that Monomoy girl, Midnight Bisou stretch battle where I think Monomoy girl got DQ'd, right? And it was like her
Hmm.
only
Hmm.
loss up till then. That was really good. Yeah, yeah. You see, I just get all these horses mixed up. You see, I've always been super forthright about this. Like I
Yeah,
have an awful memory. I have an awful memory. If
yeah,
it's literally if the horse did not either wrong me significantly or it's not on the page right there,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like I can't even name like I need Road Warrior here because he knows the names of like every single Naira Stakes race, and so I
Yeah.
sit here and stumble, and he's like he'll have the answer for me,
Yeah. No,
but
it's funny. When I handicap, I don't. I. I mean, of course, I look at names, but like especially on the undercards, like I don't really. I'm looking at figures. I'm looking at other stats. I'm looking at running lines and stuff like that. And like and then like during the race call, they're calling the winner. I'm like, wait a second, did I have that horse? Like, is that the horse I bet on? If I'm not paying attention to the number, and so yeah, I mean, I can also not have a great memory on these sorts of things too, because there's just or like I have a very good short term memory, and then like a week after the race, I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. Like, who knows? Did Jack
yeah.
Christopher win? I don't know. Like, know.
This was the Street Band race too. Street Band won this race a couple of years back. Yeah, this is a fun race. They always draw really well.
Yep.
Um, Nick Feldman already kind of read my mind. He says he plans to fade Secret Oath.
Yep.
He'll play Green Up, Adair Manor, Goddess of Fire, Shahama, and Gerrymander. I did like Green Up here a little bit. I did like a little bit of Goddess of Fire. I think, dude, look at Matt, we've talked before, Matthew. We've talked
Yeah.
before, and I've told you I've extolled my just like praise for Joel Rosario. I know Nick
Mm-hmm.
Feldman's on here. I defended Joel Rosario from his hatred and his love for Flavian Pratt. I just keep on ending up on Joel Rosario horses. I don't know how this is happening.
That's hysterical.
I thought Gerrymander looked amazing in this spot. I really liked him here. I thought Rosario gave a nice ride there in the Mother Goose. I think maybe they go to the Alabama, probably just too long.
Yeah.
Horse is probably just a little short. If you look at the running lines, they look almost exactly the same except for the end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think going back to a mile and 16th, I think that this is going to fit Gerrymander perfectly. And of course, Road Warrior. I knew Road Warrior would be on it because it's a Chad Brown horse. But I definitely think that I like Gerrymander here. I hope we get somewhere near 8-1. I would really really like that. And then the other horse I liked was Green Up. I think Todd's got a couple in here of the Pletcher horses. I liked Green Up the most.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly just from a pace scenario. I think this horse is going to be on the inside. It's going to be your inside speed. I don't know if necessarily controlling speed.
Right.
Last time did have to get kind of rushed up a little bit. I think midway there to get the lead. But pace figures fit really well. Has one over the surface, obviously against easier. And is just firing right back here at Parx. So it does. It's interesting that a Pletcher horse ended up at Parx before today, but I guess it happens.
Yeah.
And apparently Pletcher is 5-1-0 in 12 starts at Parx this year. So he's been sending live ones. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this one, Green Up, as well as the 5 here, Gerrymander. Where did you kind of land?
Yeah, very similarly. I was all over the one Green Up. That was my top choice. People who follow me on Twitter, people who've heard me on here before know I joke a lot that I have a type. Lightly raced horses with ascending speed figures who are stepping up in class. I always like using those horses because you can usually get an honest price. 6-1 on the morning line is, I think, more than honest for Green Up. I just feel like this is a horse that has kind of burst onto the scene late, whereas some of these other horses, Secret Oath in particular, have just been running through the gauntlet. And this is the end of a very long campaign for some of them. And I feel like Green Up is ascending at the exact right time. You mentioned the pace scenario. I kind of like the way this race shapes up for Green Up as well. But that was the horse that I really identified as my best bet and my up top bet. I will say, I think that Secret Oath, just to kind of talk about favorite for a second, is a horse that I'm also fading. I think this is a horse that is just tired. Honestly, I think this is a horse that needs a break. This horse does not look like it had the same burst it did back in March, April, and May. And on top of that, I wonder if there is, and I've referred to this as kind of a speaker's corner effect of this horse has just gotten its, barn doors blown off by Nest. And I wonder if there's a psychological effect on that coming back, because Speaker's Corner went up against Flightline, went up against Life is Good, got absolutely crushed. Everybody kind of applauded Speaker's Corner for, Bill Mott, going up against the best, not backing down. This is only going to make the horse tougher. Goes out west, should easily have won that sprint race and finished it like a very pedestrian fourth behind American Theorem. And you just wonder, did those races take something out of that horse just getting defeated? So I kind of have the same question about Secret Oath, and at 2-1, I just am not interested in using Secret Oath at all. So I really like the one. The other horse that I like is Shahama. This is a horse that I think is the number 8 horse in this race.
Thank you.
And yeah, sure thing. And Shahama is a horse that, or 7, I'm sorry. Yeah. And Shahama is a horse that, started its career overseas, wins that UAE Oaks, then comes over, runs in the Kentucky Derby, and obviously needed some time to acclimate to North America. But I was really impressed by that Monmouth Oaks last time out. I think this horse is finally kind of acclimated to things. This will be the 4th start in the United States. You're getting 8-1 on the morning line. Shahama seems like a horse that it really varies widely depending on what source you use in terms of what the numbers show for Shahama. Time form really does not like her at all. Buyers kind of looks at her a little bit more favorably. And so I think it just varies a lot. I just think maybe I just like this horse because I think she's got a beautiful blaze, down the front and everything. She's a very, striking horse. But, I think underneath, I definitely like using her in some vertical exotics.
Yeah, I looked at Shahama, but I hate Flavian Pratt. No.
See, really, I love Flavian. I love Flavian. I see. I'm a Flavian guy, and I like him a lot. And so, but yeah, but I don't dislike. Well, I mean, I laugh every time I see Rosario doing Rosario things. Yeah. But I don't dislike Rosario except for when he gets more like Goddess beat. But other than that, it's fine. So,
dude, I know very many angry people. I got messages after that. Did you see what happened? I was like, it's why did I open my mouth?
I joked, it's something I joked actually, that Rosario should send John Sadler and Flightline a thank you note, because up until the Pacific Classic, the only thing people were talking about on Twitter that day was how terrible Rosario's ride was on Warlike Goddess. And then we saw the greatest performance of our lifetimes, and everybody just forgot about that and just started talking about Flightline for the next 2 weeks. So and everybody seemed to forget Warlike Goddess. It just got the most abysmal trip I've ever seen in a stakes race.
Yeah, that's so funny. I did see a couple of interesting things here in chat. Nick's saying that Andy Beyer said the green up Beyer figure raw came back 114, but they said it couldn't be that fast, so they adjusted it. That's actually one of the things that I always like. I always get a kick out of Beyer. They adjust things. I mean, Timeform also adjusts them. He adjusts them for pace. You'll see some a horse go out on the lead, get burned up, get a better figure because he did all the dirty work, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, well, the figure's the figure. It's like, well, the figure's not the figure. The figure's the figure, and then someone does a little bit of, manual manipulation. So you get the right manual manipulation, it works out great, but it's not the same person making these Beyer figs in every single place. So it's always something you got to keep in mind. A place like Parx is notorious for having inflated Beyer figures. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just the person who does them. I don't know if it's the track, but it's a different person, and like I said, I don't take the Brisnet figures for gospel either. They're computer generated. There's very rarely is there any type of manual adjustment, but it's more just like a ballpark type fig for me.
Sure.
But that being said, I love the Brisnet figure on this one anyway. So hey, give me that 114. But that was kind of like that part of it that kind of stuck up. I don't think you get 6-1. This horse is going to get, especially if you see a couple horses wire. This horse is going to be your favorite. There's going to be 5-2. I did see Charles does like the 2 Adair Manor, the Bob Baffert horse. Did you give this horse any credence here?
I absolutely did. I mean, I think whenever Baffert ships in horses from California, you gotta pay him credit. You gotta pay attention. And I absolutely took a look at this horse. I just felt, at least, I look more at buyers, and it just felt like this horse was maybe a slight cut below where she needed to be competitive in this particular spot. I thought she had that Black Eyed Susan put away, and then Interstate Daydream just kind of blew by her. And so I just, that performance kind of sticks in my mind. And I just wonder if she's a perfectly good horse, but more a horse that's better underneath than a horse that seeks out the wire when running against this caliber of competition. So I might use her in some vertical exotics, but probably won't use her in any pick sequences. But you mentioned you like Goddess of Fire a little bit.
I did. When I looked at the kind of the pace scenario, and this is like I said, this is just something I usually do real quick when I'm just like eyeballing through these the first time. I tend to look at these Kieran speed points a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, when I see a lot of these 6, 7s, and 8s, that to me usually tells me the race flow is gonna, maybe play a little bit more to a presser or a closer here in that type of spot. And Shahama, is going to try and go to the front end. So I'll even kind of highlight her as a part of the pace. The race flow, the forwardly placed horses.
Yeah.
And that leaves you with 3 horses that, probably are going to be coming from slightly off. It's going to give you Secret Oath. It's going to give you Goddess of Fire. It's going to give you Morning Matcha. Secret Oath, I tend to agree with you. I think maybe the horse just needs to be turned out for a little bit at this point.
Yeah.
Or if they're going to try and run her in the Breeders' Cup, I don't know if they are or not, but hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit here before we get there.
Mm-hmm.
Morning Matcha, I've burned money on before, and I think
you
this
and me
is not
both.
the spot.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the spot, and because trust me, I tried to get there. I was like lone S, lone closer, hey, how do we get here? How do we get here? And I mean, maybe, but it kind of has only done it really twice, and it's against much weaker. So I don't know. I couldn't get there in this case, and it just kind of left Goddess of Fire out here as just kind of hey, this is going to be coming from off the pace. I think is going to get a fair enough pace to go into. Really, what scares me of this horse is the Kentucky Oaks. The Kentucky Oaks, I think she did get the pace set up to close into, and just even just show up, right? I'm just asking the horse to show up, and the horse just didn't show up. Ended up finishing 11th by 11th lengths. So it's now you're digging really far back to see a good effort from off the pace. I mean, maybe the Wilton, was pretty good. With the I think it's the horse named Tarabi. I think won that race.
Yep.
So I don't know. I saw the price. I saw 5-1. I mean, maybe if it floats up a little bit, this might be a type of horse that you could use. But this is strictly from, like I said, a race flow perspective. And this is just, like I said, this is the way I just kind of eyeball over races. I mean, you might someone else could look at this race and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's not a lot of speed.
But there's speed in this race. I don't care what figures you look at. There's speed in this race.
I don't know if you have time form. If you look at time forms, got this as a fast pace or
fast pace. Yep.
Yeah. So they probably love Secret Oath in this spot. Knowing time.
Actually, no. Something incorrect. They actually do not have fast pace. I just looked. Sorry about that. They had fast pace on the previous race, but not on this one. They had this one as quote unquote normal. But all the horses you mentioned are forwardly placed and kind of very bunched up in the front in their pace projections. So
and the thing is when you look at race flow and pace, and that tends to be where my eyeballs go at first. I mean, sometimes the horse is just that good, or that much better than the rest of the horses. Okay, cool, it's a fast pace, but I'm the speed of the speed. I'm still gonna draw off and win. We've seen it happen with Jackie's Warrior, where it's oh, cool, 20, 21, and 44 doesn't matter. See ya.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. That's just kind of why I had that horse highlighted. I really tried to get to Morning Matcha, but I couldn't get there.
No.
This should be a plus in race flow for Secret Oath, but
Hmm.
I'm just at 2 to 1. I mean, it is the most accomplished horse in here by quite a bit, but at 2 to 1, at a distance, I think might be a little sharp for
Yeah.
her because I think she does prefer going a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I mean, did win the Honeybee and has won it at a mile and 16th, but that was much
I
earlier in the
yeah,
season. So
and in my opinion, that it's funny that effort at the Honeybee. If you just, I mean, obviously the caliber of horses she was running against there is different than what she's been running against of late, but still, like just the explosion just has not been there from Secret Oath that I've seen. So, you're absolutely right. The pace setup should work, but I just, I don't know. I just can't get myself to use her in the spot, and I just think there's other, whether it be gerrymander, whether it be green up, I just think there's other ascending horses in this division that present really good value and opportunity.
yeah, and Charles kind of just saying like, yeah, it's an interesting race. Many ways the race could go, and one might just be gone.
Yeah,
That could
and this
happen.
is one, this is obviously the 11th race in the card, and this is also one where it's important to pay attention to see how the track is playing throughout the day too, because that's another thing. Like if inside speed is just, winning, then suddenly green up becomes, you already said, probably going to get bet down, but may get crushed even more. So those are the things you got to pay attention to on the day of the race. You just can't be wed to your kind of, you know, handicapping that you did in a vacuum, and you have to pay attention to the track bias on that day.
I did see Charles posted earlier that Coach won 2 races today at Churchill. So for the love of God, I hope Caleb wasn't betting because there's no way he was on any of those. But all right, race 12, the big one,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Derby, Grade 1, $1 million race here, 3-year-olds, and this is looking like a really nice race. You got Cyberknife, you got Taiba. You get some other kind of, I don't want to say Derby washouts, but like horse that ran in the Derby, trying to run the Derby, Simplification, White Abario, Zandon. You got Tawny Port, who won the Ohio Derby, and then didn't he win another race?
He won the Lexington, right?
Oh, won Lexington, won the Ohio Derby. Ran third in the Jim Dandy. Just a really, really fun race. And Nick Feldman already just calling his shot. He's saying, Taiba single and a big win bet for him here. Charles immediately says this is a spread race. That's a great thing about horse racing. Like nobody, everyone's got their own opinions here. Matthew, who do you like here?
So we got to preface a lot of things. One, the horse that I love, just personally, not in this race, is Simplification. I've liked this horse since he broke his maiden, actually, at Gulfstream Park back last year, and have been following him so closely. Absolutely love this horse. Always, I think, gives a really honest effort. Always tries hard. I think is versatile. Turned in a really good performance to the Kentucky Derby. That 4th place finish was maybe the high watermark of his career. Gets a little bit of a layoff after the Preakness, which he absolutely needed. Comes back in the slop at West Virginia to finish 3rd. Now getting back on a fast, dry track. We should mention the weather at Parx on Saturday should be absolutely beautiful. There was rain today up there, but it's going to be sunny and clear both Friday and Saturday. So at 10 to 1, I'm absolutely going to use Simplification underneath just because I love this horse. And it's just a personal pet of mine. But in terms of winning, I'm going to go with Brad Cox and Florent Giroux, and I'm going to go with Cyberknife because I think this is a horse that's just getting better every single race. And we talked about Gun Runner earlier, and I think this is another example of a gun runner who's actually getting better. This horse is maturing, is not nearly the head case he was 6 months ago, and you can start to see it. I mean, that run in the Haskell in particular, going down, fitting through that inside, and that's not something Taiba balked at, and then had to swing wide. And, so if you want to talk about the mental maturity of two horses, I'm going to go with Cyberknife here. And I think that effort in the Travers finishing 2nd, he had every right to give up in that race and still held off Zandon, still held off Rich Strike for 2nd. I just think this horse is just continuing to get better. Brad Cox and Florent Giroux on big days I don't always like them, but they always seem to show up. And so that's why I ended up going with Cyberknife. But I'm kind of more with Charles B in this one. I do feel like this is a very spread race. But people have very strong opinions about Taba, Cyberknife, Zandon, Tawny Port. Even I've seen a lot of people going, really nuts over Tawny Port and things like that. So, people have very strong feelings. But man, I think it's I don't know. I just think it's a spread type of race, but I will ultimately go with Cyberknife up top.
I literally had to remind myself who I liked in this race because I was just like, this was like I was like falling asleep on the train on the way home while I was capping this, and my mind was just like in a pretzel most of the time. And then I got to this race, and like I was just like, I have no idea.
Are you going to go with this year's Midnight Bourbon? Are you going to go with Zandon?
With Zandon?
Yeah, just keep finishing second and third. Just keep burning that money.
I put Zandon, like, honestly, like part of what like really is just like screwing with my mind is I'm like, I really picked Zandon on top and like didn't like anybody else. So I'm just like, wait, like, did I look at this race correctly?
No.
I don't know, like Zandon has tried in every single one of his races.
Absolutely.
Has run really, really nice speed figures in all these races. Has closed in to has been forward, has been kind of been off of it. I know they might have him as an S3, but I feel like the horse has. I feel like the horse has definitely run some good races and has been unfortunate to run into the horses he's run into, most notably in Epicenter. I mean, I think his two best races he's run, he's come up in against Epicenter. I was there for the Bluegrass, and that Bluegrass win was impressive, and that place went crazy when this horse won. And just kind of still looking to see if the horse can put together another nice win like that, but there are no Epicenters in this race. Cyberknife beat him last time out, but Cyberknife also, I think, was forwardly placed, and Zandon had, I think, left a little bit too much work to do in that that race. It remains to be seen. Like, if we get a similar ride to the Jim Dandy, where he's a little bit closer to the front, I think that you're going to get a really, really good race out of Zandon. You're going to get a really honest race out of Zandon. The problem being, of course, that once again, I picked the Joel Rosario horse, and like I swear this was not on purpose. And so, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, could break 10 lengths back and win by a nose. Could get forwardly sent and just like goes some stupid fractions.
And that's the thing is, the interesting part is Zandon's a horse that's had gait issues in the past. And so now you're putting, and I've seen a lot of people go, oh, this is a jockey upgrade. And I kind of understand what they're saying, but I also kind of know that Joel Rosario does Joel Rosario things, as we've talked about many, many times. And so I'm like, is it really an upgrade? You're putting Joel Rosario on a horse on the inside that has gait issues. Like, that's not an awesome recipe for success necessarily. Because I could easily see this horse being 10 lengths back at first call. And so, and like you said, maybe give it too much to do. And Cyberknife, the other reason I like Cyberknife here is Cyberknife just has versatility. Like last time we saw, he went out to the lead, ran up front, but that's not the only way he knows how to win. Like, he can come from off the pace. And so I think, Flo just has a lot more options in terms of how we want to ride Cyberknife here. And he can kind of judge what's going on around him maybe a little bit more than a horse that's just like, this is kind of my only way to win. But I think, just going through a couple of other horses in this field, We the People and Skippy Longstocking, I know some people have been talking about those horses. We the People, I think, is just a sealed track horse, or at least certainly seems to be. The only two notable performances were on sealed tracks. Skippy seems to be like his dad and really like slop. And Exaggerator, of course, very famously winning in the muck at the Preakness, and Skippy kind of doing the same thing last time out at Mountaineer. So I just can't really get excited about the two of them. But, the big question is, and I saw somebody in the comments make it, is Baffert just going to have Taba cranked up to the gills? Is this horse going to win by like 15 lengths? So, I don't know. Josh, I'm interested. What's your thoughts on Taba? Because I have very conflicted emotions on this horse, and I just don't know how much I can trust this horse.
I mean, I I just don't know. I mean, yeah, like came back and ran well in the Haskell, but what's going to be different here
Yeah.
that really makes you think, I think he's going to get the best over Cyberknife. I mean, yeah, it was only a head, so it could have just been it could just be a bob. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think you're asking a lot to see just I guess an improvement off that. I mean, that Santa Anita Derby was just absolutely insane,
Yeah, it was.
and went and ran the Kentucky Derby and just kind of, was just flat.
Draw a line
And
through it. Yeah.
you draw a line through. I mean, you draw a line through a lot of Kentucky Derbies, but
Yeah.
I just think that this horse is just going to be just bet off the board.
Yeah.
I think of the short price horses, I much prefer Cyberknife, because I think Cyberknife will be at 5-2, 3-1. I don't see Taiba being anywhere close to 5-2. Taiba is going to be the overwhelming favorite, I think. But I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know. I was all in on this horse in that Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
And then with just all of the nonsense going around, with the horse, with Bob, with Zedin, with it was just like, I don't know. I try to bet with my head, not with my heart.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up for reasons not to want to bet this horse, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Nick is right. Nick, this is a lightly raced horse.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we still haven't seen the best out of this horse, or is this just a horse that freaked early in his 3-year-old year?
Yeah. And
I don't know.
I think that's, yeah. And it's interesting from a buyer's standpoint. If you draw a line through the Kentucky Derby, buyer's figure wise, he's gone 103, 102, 101. He's actually regressed in all three of his races. Now, granted, by a single point, 101 is nothing to sneeze at, but it is interesting. He doesn't necessarily have the profile of a lightly raced horse who keeps getting better. To your point, like he just came out of the box, just like going bonkers. And so, I just feel like, I don't know. This is now I think this is a tougher field than the Haskell. And even if you don't think Cyberknife's going to win, now there's just more shooters for him to deal with in this spot. And again, I was there at the Haskell, and he totally balked at going on the inside and needed to go outside. Well, guess what? In an 11 horse field, you're going to have to figure out some trips, and there's going to be some tight spots that he's going to have to deal with. And I just wonder about the mental maturity of the horse. I saw Baffert was just quoted today saying this horse is still figuring it out. Like, that's not necessarily the most, I don't know, reaffirming quote to hear. If you're going to bet on a horse that's going to be, even money or like an 8-5 horse in this race. So, that's I think you could go a lot of ways. Zandon, if he wins, hats off to him. I'll be thrilled because I was all over that horse last time out. I've been a huge Zandon fan. I was on him, and he was my pick in the Kentucky Derby to win. I really, really love that horse, and if he can win, I'll be so happy for him. But maybe I just got burned too many times by Midnight Bourbon last year, but it just feels so much like a Midnight Bourbon horse of just showing up and just always running up against a horse that's just a little bit better, but just always putting in such a hard effort underneath and always just hitting the board, finishing second and third. The difference is he actually gives you halfway decent odds, whereas Midnight Bourbon last year was going off at like 6-5 on the by post and just was not bettable by the end.
I still laugh because remember, like early this year, we were all lamenting how we're never going to see another pace meltdown in a Kentucky Derby. I still get a kick out of it whenever I'm like scrolling through PPs and I see the Kentucky Derby.
Oh my god!
I see these pace figs. I just like laugh. I'm like, huh, no meltdown, huh?
Thank God for summer is tomorrow, and that was the best thing to happen. That was the absolute best thing to happen to the Kentucky Derbies. You just get like one sprinter in there, and all hell breaks loose because everybody's suddenly going with them, and the pace melts down and. That's what makes for those thrilling finishes, and they're not just going in a merry-go-round. So it's, that was a hell of a race. I still like rewatch that every once in a while. I'm like, did that really happen? Like, did Rich Strike really win that race? And yep, he did.
I did
So,
see a request. Somebody here, Ryan,
oh
was
yeah.
asking about a 3 cherry horse, and I do like this. The two, I do like 2 of the speed horses in the spot, and they both happen to be from the West Virginia Derby. I actually do like We the People here.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I, I think that Peter Pan was a really good race. I know it's a seal track, but I mean, come on, Park Dirt is basically just a seal track, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I mean, he is going to get a real fast surface here, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
And that West Virginia Derby was a it was a nice race. Finished second. I mean, he was a pretty heavy favorite. I kind of put a line through the Belmont. That's just always a weird race, and I know everybody was just like, "Oh my god." Like We the People's gonna wire that race. Everyone was all over We the People, and apparently the weight of horse racing Twitter was too much. Was carrying 2,000
Carrying me that
pounds.
day too. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if we get anywhere near that price, I'm very interested in We the People. But also Skippy Longstockings. I mean, the last couple months, maybe the last month or two, I mean, Saffy Joseph is just firing. I mean, he had a couple winners at Kentucky Downs, and not a place he normally wins a lot at. So and I really think that this horse ran a really really nice race last time out. The Belmont was not bad. I mean,
No.
lost to Mo Donegal and Nest, who are 2 nice horses. Shout out to Mo Donegal getting retired already, I believe, right?
Yep. Correct.
Great.
Yep. Foot issues. So
Yeah.
getting retired. Awesome.
And the Wood Memorial was a really really nice race, and I mean, I kind of feel like maybe this horse's best races have kind of been at that 1.125. So maybe, hey, going a mile and a half, mile and a quarter, mile 3/6, maybe just a little too far. Maybe just a little bit of a cutback. Horse's speed will be a little bit more dangerous, I think, or at least be forwardly placed. And I don't know. I thought with the way Saffy's been running, Edwin comes up for this mount and this mount only, and I don't know. I thought this made a lot of sense in this spot. If you're kind of trying to play against the other notables, I mean, obviously Cyberknife I think makes a ton of sense. I didn't mark anything there by Cyberknife. Other short prices, I much prefer Cyberknife over Taiba. I don't think Taiba's going to be on any of my tickets. So congratulations, Nick. I'm sure you're going to like scoop to pick 5 or something, or something's going to happen because he loves that.
Yeah.
Jimmy Two Eyes says, "What the hell is Icy Storm doing in this race?"
Gotta throw one of the locals. I don't know. Yeah. You could say the same thing. But, Naval Aviator, I guess maybe makes I don't know, is one a starter allowance, and that's about it. But yeah, I don't know. The other one that I will just have to give a shout out to because it's worth noting at Parx. I would not be surprised if the horse B-Doc actually takes a little bit of money because this horse is named after Brian Dawkins, who is the Hall of Fame, the former free safety of the Philadelphia Eagles, and who will actually be at Parx on Saturday signing autographs. And so the fact, and his nickname was, of course, B-Doc. And so if B-Doc, people are going to be betting this horse, and maybe not a lot. I don't know if it's a Happy Jack situation, but people are going to be betting this horse. And this horse will not go off at 20-1. I will promise you that. That horse will get off closer to like 12-1. I would imagine. So the name is going to matter, and Philly people are loyal, and people are gonna idiotically put $10 on this horse to win. So it is.
So we're gonna try a new one here.
Oh, okay.
It's a takeout reducer alert there on the 3B Doc. Fire up all your jacks.
Yep, I love it. But, the soundboard is in full effect.
Anything else you want to talk about in this? I think it's going to be a fun race. I mean, I don't think I'm going to use Taiba, but once again, we're like, I say that, you get Cyberknife scratches. All of a sudden, I use Taiba. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
We'll see what happens, but I do prefer Cyberknife over Taiba in this spot.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Nick Feldman, I think is straight up singling Taiba.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love it. I love having a strong opinion like that.
I do
I
too.
wish
And
I had one here.
the final thing I'll say is I actually think this is, and Josh, I'd be interested if you agree with me or not. I think this is the best 3-year-old field outside of the Triple Crown races. Because it's just got depth in the way that the others
I
don't.
think it might be the deepest.
Yeah.
I don't know about. I mean, I think any race without epicenter is hard to say the best.
Sure.
But because what was the and I already forgot the race.
The Travers.
Yeah, I mean the Travers was a really really nice race.
Travers.
I mean that was a nice race. I mean there was maybe not as deep like if you went like 5-6 horses in, but
yeah,
I think
this was good, especially with the retirement of Mo Donegal now. I mean, we really are. The only horse you're missing is Epicenter because early voting is regressing. And so, like, I don't even really, like, consider that missing early voting. And so I just, I just think this Pennsylvania Derby has come up incredibly strong this year.
Uncle Capitan is asking what Triple Crown race was better.
Well, I mean, I think the Derby was better. I mean, I think the Preakness, you could, probably not. I think the Belmont, it's interesting. I mean, Belmont that was an interesting race. I mean, I don't know. The Derby, I think, was better, but I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the Preakness and Belmont fields, but that's just maybe more personal preference.
So since Mike El Capitan is in chat, who do you like in the Pennsylvania Derby? I'm curious. He's probably on Cyberknife. He loves Cyberknife like I did. I remember we did a stream and myself and Mark both picked Cyberknife and Caleb was just beside himself. He could not believe that we picked Cyberknife in the Haskell.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he was so upset. Oh, there it is.
Cyberknife. Yeah.
I didn't mean to favorite that. I meant to highlight that. Yeah. Cyberknife.
Yep. There it is. Yep. All right, tape it to the hoop. Okay,
there it is. Tape it to the hoop. There, congratulations to
Bob Affert and all the winning
Bob
connections
Affert,
there.
Nick Feldman, Jimmy Barnes.
Jimmy will be there, I'm sure. So
it probably won't even be Bob. I'm sure it's gonna be Jimmy.
Oh yeah, Bob. Yeah, I doubt Bob will be there. So
mile 16th here, the Alphabet Soup.
Yeah, let's finish up.
This is a fun little race here. And I landed on 2 horses in this race. I did like the favorite, 5-2 by Land and Sea.
Yep.
I thought that was going to be kind of your pace setter. Parx doesn't run much on the turf. Do they only run on the turf on these big stakes races, or do they run?
They run on the turf normally, but they are extremely cautious about taking races off the turf as there's just a little bit of moisture. So I can't tell you the number of times that they're off turf at Parx. Like, it's crazy. So they definitely are very protective of that turf.
Yeah, I did like By Land and Sea here. I thought the horse made a lot of sense. Coming from Saratoga, and I thought ran that with anticipation. Was a nice little race there at Penn. Horse is also 2 for 2 at Parx. I don't necessarily know if that's on turf or on dirt, but horse obviously likes Parx here. And I just thought it was going to get a pace advantage here. So I thought the 1 made a ton of sense. I did have a bit of a kind of an outsider, but I mean, it's a Paco Lopez horse, so I don't know how outside this is. And that's the 8 Crisper for Tim Woolley and Paco Lopez. And I was just kind of looking for a horse that has run on this surface, that has won, and I see this horse is, kind of listed as an S type, but if you kind of look back at that maiden claiming, race, horse wasn't like super, super far back. Yeah. In some of these other races, when the pace was faster and faster, the horse was going further and further back. I don't really see a huge pace meltdown here. So I think Crisper is going to sit a little bit more aggressively. And Paco himself is a much more aggressive rider. So, I thought that this was a real interesting horse, is a horse that's won over the surface. And, I I thought you were going to get a good price with good connections here. Paco Lopez, obviously 27% here,
Hmm.
and Tim Woolley hasn't run many horses, but one for three. So yeah, I really liked CRISPR in this spot.
It's funny, we landed on the same long shot. I also identify CRISPR as the horse I really liked to use potentially underneath, but I think that's a horse broke its maiden. Ran the first two efforts on dirt, finally goes to turf, runs at Parx, wins in a maiden effort, and so has experience over that turf, and then goes to Penn National and runs two really solid efforts in the allowance races. There's not a. I feel like the one is a very logical choice as well. I also like the 6 Midnight Hauler a little bit at 7-2, so you're getting slightly better odds there. Again, maybe needs a little bit more of a pace meltdown, but has demonstrated that he can sit closer to the lead. Does not run on turf often, but when he does, turns in good efforts. So in the two, from a buyer's figure standpoint, his two best buyer's figures are the two times he's run on dirt or turf, I should say, which were two of the last three times out. So seems to like this mile and a 16th as well. Has won once on yielding, has won once on firm. So some versatility there, depending on how it should be a firm track, but just in case it's retaining any moisture from the storms that went through today. So I thought that Midnight Hauler was interesting. But yeah, CRISPR was one that I thought was very logical underneath, and a horse that I was really interested in. Would need to take a little bit of a step forward there, but I'm probably going to be playing some combination of the 168 in a lot of my tickets for this 13th race. That's one again, kind of a little bit like the turf monster. There are some horses that really don't have much turf pedigree in this race as well. So there's some which, a horse like Irish Cork or something like that. There's some horses that you can just kind of go, I don't know, I rads on them, but and that's going to attract some money. But otherwise, I just didn't really see much there. So yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement here on this last race. And I have to say, I really like that the last race on a big day is not like a maiden claimer at the very least, that they're at least ending on like a legit, race to some extent. That's not just a total spread from a pick sequence. So
Yeah, so one of these dirt horses are totally going to win and just blow everyone's ticket out.
yeah, Vine Jet's gonna win. Vine Jet's a horse I really liked. I actually think that horse might have won at Pennsylvania Derby Day in a maiden race last year, I want to say. But I think I won actually on that horse, but was not is purely a dirt horse, and so we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun card. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a fun card. I will definitely be involved in that late pick 5. I know we do kind of like a friendly contest with a couple of guys, and that's our track for this week. So I'll definitely look. Yeah, Mark's asking any love for the 6, but I believe that's Midnight Hauler.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
we were already talking about. Yeah,
yep, that's the 6. Yep, that's I
so
definitely like that, and I definitely like horses where the form is a little muddied, and you have to kind of look in, and but the source seems like they're trying to get this horse back on turf, which is clearly I think the right thing to do. So definitely like that horse at 7-2. We'll see what you end up getting in post time, but feels like the 1 and 6 are pretty logical, and I like the 8 there. So some combination of those three, and like you said, congratulations to the winner, Irish Cork and Vine Jet, finishing out the exact.
They dead heat for first.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thanks for doing this on relatively short notice. I know I reached out to you pretty late in the week, but thank you. It just so happened that you happen to be a Pennsylvania native, so this worked out really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate you doing it. I don't know if you got anything you want to plug or what you got going on here.
Yeah, I mean, always have stuff going on. I try to hustle hard, and so it's always something. But yeah, I have a weekly show called Countdown to Keeneland that's on the Trust the Profits YouTube page. If people want to check that out, follow me on Twitter at the handle @FailToMenace. The Countdown to Keeneland is a weekly show where I recap the previous week's win in your in races and preview the next week's win in your in races, and kind of keep people up to breast with Breeders' Cup news, who's in, who's out, what trainers are saying, kind of where people are pointing to next, are people going to be skipping, what are the Euros coming over, etc. So it's getting to be that season where we're getting excited for Keeneland and getting excited for that first weekend in November.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. So make sure you check out Matt at Failed the Menace. Obviously, we here are on the wrong lead, on the wrong lead.com. I've been trying to, like I said, do that Monday morning column. Just put something up there. I gotta talk with Mark, see what his uncling's schedule looks like on Saturday. We may or may not be live to talk a little bit of Parks, maybe get his thoughts on some stuff, but we'll figure that out. We'll post something tomorrow. And then I got something. I think I got something cooking with a pod on the podcast side. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more news about that later this week. I got a great co-host I think lined up, so
Nice.
we'll get that started. Because man, I tried doing a couple of solo podcasts and it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
It is
It,
tough.
I mean, I did a solo pod, that for a while. I will say my career, as a college professor, really helped me out there. I mean, it's like hearing yourself talk for like 45 minutes is not easy, and it just wears you out after a while too. And I remember at the beginning I had to just have like super extensive notes so I wouldn't lose my train of thought. It's just so much easier to bounce off somebody else. So excited to hear about this though. That's
Yeah.
good stuff, Josh.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll catch you guys maybe Saturday. If not, definitely next Thursday we'll be live. And yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. And let me see if I can find the graphic, and hopefully my computer doesn't freeze again.
Or we could just look at you awkwardly,